Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to talk about something that silently controls millions of people every single day. Your thoughts. Many people believe every thought that enters their mind. I am not good enough. I will fail. People hate me. My life will never change. I am weak. I cannot do this. And slowly, these thoughts become emotional pain. But here is the truth. Not every thought is true. Thoughts appear naturally. Your brain creates thousands of thoughts every day automatically. Some are positive, some are negative, some are fearful, some are completely meaningless. But suffering begins when you hold on to these thoughts. Repeat them and believe them completely. This is where anxiety grows. This is where overthinking begins. This is where fear becomes stronger. A single negative thought is not dangerous, but repeating that thought again and again can slowly destroy peace, confidence, and happiness. In this video, you will learn why thoughts appear naturally, why your mind creates fear and negativity, why overthinking creates suffering, how to stop believing every thought, how to become mentally stronger, how to create peace inside your mind, and everything will be explained in very simple English. So relax your mind, listen carefully, and let's begin. Lesson 1. Thoughts are automatic. One of the biggest misunderstandings people have about the mind is this. They think every thought they have is true. But this is not true at all. The human mind creates thoughts automatically all day long. You do not sit down and manually create every thought one by one. Thoughts simply appear. Sometimes positive thoughts appear. Today will be a good day. I can improve. I feel motivated. But negative thoughts also appear naturally. What if I fail? What if people judge me? I am not good enough. My future looks hopeless. This happens to almost everyone. The mind constantly produces thoughts. In fact, many people experience thousands of thoughts every single day. Some thoughts are useful, some are random, some are emotional, some are fearful, some are completely meaningless. But the problem begins when people believe every thought without questioning it. For example, imagine you make one small mistake while speaking English. Immediately, the mind may create thoughts like, I sound stupid. I will never become fluent. Everyone is better than me. Now stop for a moment. Are these thoughts really facts? No, they are emotional reactions created by the mind. But many people do something dangerous. They repeat these thoughts again and again. And slowly, those thoughts begin controlling emotions. This is how suffering begins. A thought appears naturally. Then the person holds on to the thought. Then the person keeps thinking about it. Then fear grows stronger. Then confidence becomes weaker. Over time, the mind becomes full of stress and negativity. But the original thought was not the real problem. The real problem was attachment to the thought. This is a very important lesson to understand. Thoughts are automatic. You cannot completely stop thoughts from appearing. Trying to stop every negative thought is almost impossible. Imagine trying to stop clouds from moving across the sky. Thoughts work the same way. They come, they stay for a moment. Then, they leave. But many people chase thoughts, fight thoughts, or become trapped inside thoughts. This creates mental exhaustion. Another important thing to understand is this. The brain is designed to think constantly. Even when you are resting, your mind continues working. Sometimes your brain remembers old memories. Sometimes it imagines future problems. Sometimes it creates fear for protection. This is normal human psychology. The mind wants safety. That is why negative thoughts often appear stronger than positive thoughts. For example, if 10 people compliment you but one person criticizes you, the mind usually focuses more on the criticism. Why? Because the brain naturally pays attention to possible danger or rejection. Long ago, this survival system helped humans stay alive. But today, this same system often creates unnecessary emotional suffering. People overthink, people panic, people fear situations that may never even happen. Another important thing is that thoughts are not always logical. Sometimes thoughts come from stress, fear, insecurity, exhaustion, loneliness, or past emotional pain. For example, a person who had painful experiences in the past may constantly think, "Nobody cares about me. People always leave me. I cannot trust anyone." These thoughts may feel emotionally real, but feelings are not always reality. Thoughts can lie, and this is why awareness is so important. Most people live completely controlled by their thoughts. A negative thought appears, and immediately their mood changes. Fear controls them. Anger controls them. Anxiety controls them. But mentally strong people learn something powerful. They learn to observe thoughts without immediately believing them. This changes everything. For example, instead of saying, "I am a failure," a calmer person notices, "My mind is creating a negative thought right now." That small difference is extremely powerful. Why? Because now the person is observing the thought instead of becoming trapped inside it. This creates mental space, and mental space creates peace. Another important thing to understand is that thoughts constantly change. One moment you feel motivated, another moment you feel hopeless. One day you feel confident, the next day you feel insecure. This proves something important. Thoughts are temporary. They are not permanent truth, but many people build their entire identity around temporary thoughts. If the mind says, "I am weak," they immediately believe it. If the mind says, "My future is hopeless," they panic. This creates emotional suffering. Another powerful lesson is this: you do not need to react to every thought. Just because a thought appears does not mean you must obey it. Imagine standing near a busy road. Cars continue passing by. You notice them, but you do not run after every car. Thoughts can be observed the same way. They appear. You notice them. Then you let them pass. This is emotional maturity. Another reason people suffer mentally is because they repeat negative thinking constantly. For example, a person may think about one embarrassing moment for years. The event happened once, but the mind repeats it hundreds of times. This repetition creates suffering. The mind keeps reopening emotional wounds again and again. That is why learning to detach from thoughts is powerful. You are not every thought you think. You are the awareness observing the thoughts. This understanding can create tremendous peace. Another important thing is self-compassion. Many people attack themselves mentally every single day. Their inner voice becomes cruel. "I am useless. I am ugly. I always fail. I am behind everyone." Imagine hearing these words every day inside your own mind. Of course, suffering grows. That is why becoming aware of your inner dialogue is very important. Strong minds learn to speak to themselves differently, not with fake positivity, but with calm honesty and self-respect. Another important lesson is patience. Mental peace does not appear overnight. The mind has habits. If someone spent years overthinking and believe in every fear, change takes time. But slowly awareness becomes stronger. And as awareness grows, thoughts lose some of their power. The mind becomes calmer, fear becomes weaker, overthinking decreases, and peace slowly increases. So remember this carefully. Thoughts are automatic. They are natural. You do not need to fear every thought. You do not need to believe every thought. And you do not need to suffer because of every thought. The moment you learn to observe thoughts calmly instead of becoming trapped inside them, your relationship with your mind begins to change completely. Lesson 2. Overthinking creates suffering. A negative thought by itself is usually small. But when you keep thinking about that thought again and again, suffering begins to grow. This is called overthinking. Overthinking is one of the biggest causes of stress, anxiety, fear, sadness, and mental exhaustion. Many people suffer not because reality is terrible, but because their mind keeps creating painful stories repeatedly. This happens every day. For example, someone sends a message to a friend. Hours pass, but there is no reply. Immediately, the mind starts creating stories. Maybe they are angry with me. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they don't like me anymore. Maybe I ruined the friendship. Now anxiety begins growing. The person keeps checking the phone repeatedly. The mind continues imagining worst-case situations. But later, the friend replies normally, "Sorry, I was busy." Now the person realizes something important. The suffering was created mostly by overthinking, not by reality. This happens constantly in human life. The mind often creates problems that do not even exist. Another example. Imagine someone makes one small mistake while speaking English. Maybe they pronounce one word incorrectly. Most people forget the mistake quickly, but the overthinking mind continues replaying the moment. I sounded stupid. Everyone noticed my mistake. I embarrassed myself. I should stop speaking. Now one small moment becomes hours or days of emotional suffering. This is the danger of overthinking. The mind repeats negative thoughts until they become emotionally heavy. Another important thing to understand is this. Overthinking does not solve most problems. Many people believe, if I think more, maybe I will feel safer. But usually the opposite happens. Too much thinking creates more confusion, more fear, and more stress. The mind becomes trapped inside endless mental loops. People replay the same thoughts repeatedly without finding peace. Another major problem with overthinking is that it steals the present moment. Instead of enjoying life now, the mind becomes trapped in future fear or past regret. A person may sit with family while mentally drowning in anxiety. A person may walk outside while overthinking imaginary problems. The body is present, but the mind is trapped somewhere else. This creates emotional exhaustion. Another reason overthinking becomes dangerous is because the brain naturally focuses on negativity. The human brain is designed to notice danger and problems. Long ago, this helped humans survive. But today, this same system often creates unnecessary mental suffering. For example, the mind constantly asks, what if something bad happens? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I lose everything? The brain thinks it is protecting you, but constant fear destroys peace. Another important lesson is that overthinking often creates false stories. The mind rarely sees complete reality clearly during emotional stress. Instead, it imagines possibilities. And usually, those possibilities are negative. For example, a person may think, my future is ruined. Nobody cares about me. I will never improve. But these are not facts. They are emotional thoughts created during stress or fear. This is why overthinking can become very dangerous if left uncontrolled. Another important thing is that overthinking weakens confidence. People become afraid of taking action. They analyze every small situation too much. What if I fail? What if I make mistakes? What if people laugh? Eventually, fear becomes stronger than action, and life becomes smaller. Many dreams die because of overthinking, not because people are incapable, but because fear controls the mind. Another painful effect of overthinking is physical stress. The body reacts to mental fear. Overthinking can create poor sleep, headaches, exhaustion, stomach problems, tension, and emotional burnout. The mind and body are deeply connected. Constant mental stress affects physical health too. Another important lesson is this: most of the things people worry about never actually happen. The mind imagines problems constantly. But imagination is not reality. Many people spend years fearing situations that never arrive. This wastes enormous emotional energy. Another reason overthinking continues is because people believe every thought immediately. They never pause and question the mind. For example, a thought appears: I am a failure. Instead of observing calmly, the person instantly believes the thought. Then sadness grows. But mentally strong people learn something different. They learn to pause. They ask, is this thought really true? Do I have proof? Or is my mind creating fear again? This small pause creates awareness, and awareness weakens overthinking. Another powerful thing that helps reduce overthinking is action. Overthinking grows strongest when people stay inactive. The mind becomes trapped inside endless thinking. But action interrupts mental loops. For example, exercise helps, walking helps, working helps, speaking helps, writing helps, learning helps. Movement often calms the mind. Another important thing is learning to accept uncertainty. Many people overthink because they desperately want certainty about everything. But life always contains uncertainty. Nobody can fully control the future, other people, or every outcome. Peace grows when you stop demanding perfect certainty from life. Another powerful habit is staying present. Overthinking usually lives in the future or the past, fear about tomorrow, regret about yesterday. But peace exists in the present moment, right now. When you focus completely on breathing, listening, walking, or working, the mind slowly becomes calmer. This is why mindfulness is powerful. Another important lesson is self-compassion. People who overthink often attack themselves mentally. Their inner voice becomes cruel. You always fail. You are weak. You are embarrassing. This creates even more suffering. Mentally healthy people learn to speak to themselves with patience and understanding. Not perfection, just calm awareness. Another powerful truth is this: you do not need to solve every thought. Some thoughts simply need to be observed and released. Not every thought deserves your attention, and not every fear deserves your belief. Overthinking loses power when you stop feeding it constantly. So remember this carefully. A thought appears naturally, but suffering grows when you repeat, fear, and hold on to the thought again and again. The calmer you become at observing thoughts, the less power overthinking has over your life. And slowly your mind becomes lighter, quieter, and more peaceful. Lesson 3. Your mind naturally focuses on fear. The human mind naturally focuses on fear, danger, and problems. This is normal. Long ago, people survived by noticing danger quickly. That is why the brain still reacts strongly to fear today. For example, one person may criticize you, and suddenly your mind keeps thinking about that one negative comment all day. Why? Because the brain pays more attention to possible danger than positive things. Another example, a person wants to speak English in public. Immediately, the mind creates fear. What if people laugh? What if I make mistakes? What if I fail? The brain thinks it is protecting you. But sometimes fear stops growth. If people believe every fearful thought, they stop trying new things. They avoid challenges. They avoid opportunities. They stay inside comfort zones. And slowly their confidence becomes weaker. Another important thing is this. Most fears are imagination, not reality. The mind creates worst-case situations constantly, but many of those situations never actually happen. That is why awareness is important. You do not need to believe every fearful thought your mind creates. Strong people still feel fear sometimes, but they continue moving forward anyway. And slowly, confidence becomes stronger than fear. Lesson 4. Thoughts are not facts. One of the most powerful things you can learn is this. Thoughts are not facts. Just because a thought appears in your mind does not mean it is true. For example, a person may think, I am weak. I always fail. Nobody likes me. These thoughts may feel emotionally real, but feelings are not always reality. The mind often creates negative stories during stress, fear, sadness, or insecurity. Another important thing is that thoughts constantly change. One day you feel confident. Another day you feel afraid. If thoughts were absolute truth, they would never change so much. This proves that thoughts are temporary mental experiences. Another powerful habit is questioning your thoughts. Instead of immediately believing every negative thought, pause and ask, is this really true? Do I have proof? Or is my mind reacting emotionally? This creates awareness, and awareness creates emotional freedom. Another important lesson is this. You are not every thought you think. Thoughts come and go. But you can learn to observe them calmly instead of becoming trapped inside them. And slowly, your mind becomes lighter, calmer, and more peaceful. Lesson 5. Stop fighting every thought. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to fight every negative thought that appears in the mind. They become afraid of their thoughts. So they try to push them away, control them, or completely destroy them. But something very strange happens. The more they fight the thoughts, the stronger the thoughts often become. This is how the mind works. Imagine someone says, "Do not think about a black cat." Immediately, the mind imagines a black cat. The more you try not to think about it, the more the image returns. Thoughts work the same way. The more fear and attention you give them, the more powerful they feel emotionally. This is why constantly fighting thoughts can create exhaustion. Many people spend years battling their own mind. They think, I must remove every negative thought. I must stop anxiety completely. I must control my mind perfectly. But complete control of the mind is impossible. Thoughts naturally appear. The goal is not to become a person with zero negative thoughts. The goal is learning not to become trapped by those thoughts. This changes everything. Another important thing to understand is this. A thought itself usually cannot hurt you. It is only a mental event. But when you panic about the thought, suffering grows. For example, a fearful thought appears. What if I fail? Now one person reacts like this. Oh no, this thought means I will fail. Something is wrong with me. Fear increases immediately. But another person notices calmly, my mind is creating fear right now. The thought still appeared, but emotional suffering became smaller because the person did not fight or panic. This is a powerful mental skill. Another major reason fighting thoughts becomes dangerous is because resistance creates obsession. The more people try to force thoughts away, the more attention stays focused on them. For example, someone afraid of embarrassment may constantly think, don't embarrass yourself. Don't make mistakes. Don't say something stupid. Now the mind becomes completely focused on fear. Anxiety increases. This creates more stress during conversations, public speaking, or social situations. Another important lesson is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean liking negative thoughts. It means understanding. Thoughts naturally appear sometimes. That is all. You stop treating every thought like an emergency. This creates emotional calmness. Another powerful thing to understand is that thoughts often pass naturally when you stop feeding them. Imagine clouds moving across the sky. You notice the clouds, but you do not chase them. Thoughts can be observed the same way. They appear. You notice them. Then they slowly pass. But many people grab onto every thought emotionally. Then the mind becomes heavy and exhausted. Another important lesson is detachment. Detachment means creating space between yourself and your thoughts. For example, instead of saying, I am a failure, you notice differently. My mind is producing a self-critical thought right now. That small change creates distance, and distance weakens emotional suffering. This is why awareness is so powerful. Another major problem with fighting thoughts is frustration. People become angry at their own mind. They think, why am I thinking this? What is wrong with me? I should not feel this way. But this creates even more mental tension. Remember, having negative thoughts does not make you broken. It makes you human. Every person experiences fear, insecurity, doubt, anger, and sadness sometimes. The difference is how people respond to those thoughts. Another important thing is emotional energy. Fighting thoughts constantly drains energy. The mind becomes tired. People lose peace because they are always mentally struggling. But when you stop wrestling with every thought, the mind slowly relaxes. This creates more clarity and emotional freedom. Another powerful lesson is mindfulness. Mindfulness means calmly observing thoughts without immediately reacting. For example, a negative thought appears. Instead of panicking, you simply notice. A fearful thought appeared. Then you return attention to the present moment, to breathing, to listening, to working, to walking. This interrupts mental spirals. Another important thing is understanding that silence inside the mind is not always necessary for peace. Many people think, I will finally feel peaceful when my mind becomes completely quiet. But peaceful people still experience thoughts. The difference is this. They are no longer controlled by every thought. Thoughts may still appear, but they no longer create constant suffering. Another major lesson is patience. Learning not to fight thoughts takes practice, especially for people who spent years overthinking or fearing the mind. At first, the brain may continue reacting automatically. That is normal. But slowly awareness grows stronger. And over time, thoughts lose some of their emotional power. Another powerful habit is focusing on action instead of endless mental analysis. For example, instead of spending hours overthinking fear, take small action, speak, practice, exercise, work, create. Action often weakens mental fear much faster than endless thinking. Another important thing is self-compassion. Many people become cruel toward themselves because of negative thinking. But healing usually grows through patience and understanding, not self-hatred. A calmer inner voice creates a calmer mind. Another powerful truth is this: you do not need to win every battle inside your mind. Sometimes peace comes from stepping out of the battle completely. You stop arguing with every thought. You stop fearing every emotion. You stop trying to mentally control everything. And slowly the mind becomes lighter. So remember this carefully. Thoughts will always appear naturally, but suffering grows when you fear them, fight them, and feed them constantly. The moment you learn to observe thoughts calmly without becoming trapped inside them, your emotional freedom begins growing, and slowly your mind becomes quieter, stronger, and more peaceful. Lesson 6. The present moment brings peace. Most people spend their lives trapped inside the past or the future. They think about old mistakes, painful memories, fear, regret, future problems, and imaginary situations. Because of this, the mind rarely rests. Many people are physically present somewhere, but mentally somewhere else. A person may sit with family while thinking about fear. A person may walk outside while worrying about tomorrow. A person may eat food while replaying painful memories. This creates mental suffering. But one powerful truth changes everything. Peace exists in the present moment. Right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. The present moment is where life actually happens. Another important thing is this: most thoughts creating suffering are connected to the past or the future. For example, I should have done better. What if something bad happens? What if I fail? What if people reject me? The mind keeps jumping through time constantly, but when attention returns to the present moment, the mind becomes calmer. For example, focus completely on breathing. Focus on walking. Focus on listening carefully. Focus on eating slowly. Focus on your surroundings. Slowly, mental noise becomes quieter. This is why mindfulness is powerful. Mindfulness means fully paying attention to the present moment without constant mental judgment. Another important lesson is that the present moment interrupts overthinking. Overthinking needs mental stories, but awareness brings attention back to reality. For example, instead of imagining future fear endlessly, you notice your breathing, the room around you, sounds, movement, and life happening now. This weakens anxiety. Another powerful thing is this: the present moment is usually much safer than the fearful stories inside the mind. The mind imagines disasters constantly. But right now, in this moment, many things are often okay. Learning to stay present creates emotional peace slowly. And the more present you become, the less power unnecessary thoughts have over your life. Lesson 7. Your mind becomes stronger through repetition. The human mind changes through repetition. Whatever you repeat mentally becomes stronger over time. This is one of the most important psychological truths. If a person constantly repeats negative thoughts like, I am weak, I always fail, my life is hopeless, eventually the mind starts accepting these thoughts as identity. This creates emotional suffering. The brain learns through repetition. That is why mental habits matter greatly. Many people repeat fear daily without realizing it. They replay embarrassment, rejection, insecurity, and anxiety again and again. Slowly, those thoughts become emotionally powerful. But positive repetition also changes the mind. For example, a person may start repeating, I can improve. I will keep trying. Mistakes are part of growth. I do not need to fear every thought. At first, these thoughts may feel weak, but repeated daily, they slowly reshape the mind. Another important lesson is environment. The mind absorbs what it sees repeatedly. Negative environments feed fear and stress. Positive environments support confidence and growth. That is why protecting your mental environment matters greatly. Strong minds are built through daily habits. Healthy thinking, calm awareness, good routines, positive action, and repetition. Over time, the brain adapts to what it practices most, and slowly, emotional strength grows. Lesson 8. Detachment creates emotional freedom. One of the most powerful mental skills is detachment. Detachment does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means understanding. You do not need to react emotionally to every thought that appears in your mind. Most people instantly attach themselves to thoughts. A fearful thought appears, and immediately panic begins. A negative thought appears, and sadness grows instantly. But emotionally strong people learn to observe thoughts calmly. For example, a thought appears. What if I fail? Instead of becoming trapped in fear, the person notices, my mind is creating fear right now. Then they continue taking action anyway. This is emotional freedom. Another important thing is this. Thoughts come and go constantly. If you become attached to every thought, life becomes emotionally exhausting. But when you observe thoughts calmly without holding on to them too tightly, peace increases. Detachment creates mental space, and mental space creates calmness. Another powerful lesson is that not every thought deserves attention. Some thoughts are simply fear, stress, insecurity, or temporary emotion. You do not need to believe every story created by the mind. Another important thing is action. Detached people still feel fear sometimes, but they do not let fear completely control their decisions. They continue moving forward. They continue learning. They continue speaking. They continue growing. This builds confidence naturally. The less attached you become to random fearful thoughts, the freer your mind becomes. And slowly, anxiety, overthinking, and emotional suffering lose some of their power over your life. Lesson 9. Build a stronger mind every day. A strong mind is not built in one day. Mental strength grows slowly through daily habits and awareness. Just like exercise makes the body stronger, healthy habits make the mind stronger. Many people suffer because they constantly feed their mind with fear, negativity, stress, and overthinking. That is why your daily habits matter greatly. Simple habits can improve your mind. Good sleep, exercise, deep breathing, positive self-talk, mindfulness, journaling, and reducing negativity. Another important thing is your environment. Negative people and constant stress can make the mind heavy and anxious, but peaceful environments help calm the mind. Another powerful lesson is learning to pause. Not every thought needs an immediate reaction. Strong people learn to stay calm before reacting emotionally. Another important thing is self-talk. Many people speak to themselves very harshly. I am weak. I always fail. But mentally strong people practice healthier thinking. I can improve. Mistakes are part of growth. This slowly builds confidence and emotional strength. Remember this carefully. Your mind becomes stronger through daily practice. Small, healthy habits repeated every day can slowly create more peace, more confidence, and a calmer, stronger mind. Lesson 10. Freedom begins when you stop believing every thought. This is the final lesson, and it may be the most important lesson of all. Thoughts will always appear in the mind. You cannot completely stop thoughts. Sometimes positive thoughts appear. Sometimes fearful thoughts appear. Sometimes negative thoughts appear. This is normal. But suffering begins when you believe every thought automatically. For example, a thought appears. I will fail. I am weak. My future is hopeless. Many people immediately believe these thoughts. Then fear grows, stress grows, confidence becomes weaker. But remember this carefully. Thoughts are not always facts. The mind creates stories constantly, especially during fear, stress, anxiety, or sadness. That is why awareness is powerful. Instead of reacting immediately to every thought, learn to pause and observe calmly. Ask yourself, is this really true? Or is my mind creating fear again? This small habit can change your emotional life. Another important thing is detachment. You do not need to fight every thought. You do not need to obey every thought. You do not need to fear every thought. You can simply notice thoughts and let them pass. Like clouds moving across the sky. Another powerful lesson is staying present. Most suffering comes from thinking too much about the past or worrying too much about the future. But peace exists in the present moment, right now. When you focus on breathing, working, walking, listening, or simply being present, the mind becomes calmer. Another important truth is this: you are bigger than your thoughts. Thoughts come and go constantly, but awareness remains. And the moment you stop believing every fearful thought, your mind slowly becomes lighter, calmer, and more peaceful. So from today, observe your thoughts calmly. Do not feed unnecessary fear. Do not let overthinking control your life. Keep practicing awareness every day, and slowly you will build more peace, more confidence, more emotional freedom, and a stronger mind. If this video helped you, like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful and life-changing lessons.